Wisdom. It's an incredibly valuable asset. Some would say more precious than gold. It's attractive, appealing, admirable. Conversely, a lack of wisdom is the basis of immaturity, blind spots, and bad decisions. Wisdom. It can be gained over time, but it can't be rushed. But wisdom can be shared. That's precisely what we are here to do right now. Today, we are here to hack wisdom, to distill it, to understand it, and to process it. Why? To get better at life. Welcome to The Main Thing. This is your new 9-minute podcast. I'm your host, Skip Linneberg, and I've set out to interview the wisest people I know. We'll see what we can learn from each one when they're faced with an incredibly difficult, soul-piercing question. Welcome back to The Main Thing podcast. I'm your host, Skip Linneberg. Our special guest today has a special story, incredible fortitude, and a huge heart. In a moment, you're going to hear an interview that's amazing, sad, hopeful, shocking. It's a triumphant story and a powerful testimony. So if you are seeking inspiration, if you're searching for hope, you've come to the right place. Today's conversation with Dawne Jacoby will leave you feeling unmistakably, I can do this. It doesn't matter what bad things have happened to me or what setbacks I have incurred. Those things do not define me, and they only hold me back if I allow it. Right now, go ahead and decide which of your friends or loved ones need that sort of inspiration and encouragement, because I want you to share this episode with at least one person. Now, let me tell you more about our wise guest. Dawne Jacoby is an author and co-founder of Grit to Grace. In that role, she provides transformational coaching and executive consulting, as well as keynote speaking. She's the host of the wonderful new podcast, His and Her Life Hacks. Dawne Jacoby was a former corporate executive whose efforts were centered around growth, organizational change, relationships, and development. She decided after multiple layoffs to lead with her faith and her heart, to pursue her passion, to align with her purpose in this world, helping people. Today, as co-founder of Grit to Grace, alongside her partner and fiancé, Larry Ambrose, Dawne helps people to identify and remove the limiting beliefs that tend to hold them back, both personally and professionally. Dawne helps clients uncover their true passion and strengths and creates a personalized plan so they can live the life they've always dreamed of. She joins us today from Philadelphia. Now lock in, get ready. Over the next 9 minutes, you will discover why Dawne Jacoby is one of the wisest people I know. Dawne Jacoby, welcome to the Main Thing podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Skip.
Yeah, it's great to have you on this morning, on this bitter cold morning here in West Virginia. Dawne, it's 6. How about in Philly?
It's 7.
Oh,
yes.
Gosh. We are finally getting some a bit of winter, and I'm ready for a little bit of it. I hope this doesn't linger, but I like a little bit of snow and a little bit of these cold temps.
Yes, I'm with you, and then I'm finished after that.
Dawne, one thing that we have in common is we're both podcasters.
Yes, I've been loving this podcasting.
Yeah, give us the elevator pitch for yours. It's, what, about 4 months old?
Yeah, it's called His and Her Life Hacks. And I get to share this podcast with my favorite person by my side, Larry Ambrose, who is my fiance. And basically what we do is we share our personal stories, tips and tricks to everyday life experiences in hopes to help or inspire other people. Sometimes we make you laugh. Sometimes we make you cry. Our stories range from deep to funny.
Right on. And you're also an author. You're working on a book?
I am. Yes, I just need to finalize it. But I signed with a publisher and can't wait to release it.
That's awesome. Congratulations. What's your working title?
It's going to be I Thought It Was Love. And then the subtitle would be A Mother's Lifelong Journey Through Abuse.
You mentioned Larry Ambrose, and he was our guest on episode 101. How did you and Larry meet? Would you give us a little bit of a taste of how you and Larry met and now are engaged to be
Yeah,
married.
absolutely. So it was 2 years ago in December. We were introduced by a
Okay.
mutual friend. I have known this friend for about 25 years and worked with her for a little bit.
Mm,
And Larry also knew her for quite a bit. His children and hers went to school in the same church. So it was awesome. I loved it because it was an organic way of meeting someone.
that's a lifelong friend, 25 years.
Yeah.
Gosh. She really knows you, and I guess she really knew Larry.
Yes, that was key. And she also knew that I had been single for about 5.5 years. And I kept saying as a joke, God is going to send me my person wrapped in a bow, and I'm going to meet him like a Hallmark movie at Wegmans as I'm trying to
Yeah.
like get something off the top shelf. He's going to come
Right.
by and just, get that for me, and then it'll be happily ever after, and we'll move to Colorado. So,
That's your meet cute part of the
yeah,
script.
yeah.
Folks, if you missed Larry's episode about 5 episodes back, go listen to it. Larry has an amazing, tragic, beautiful, powerful story where he was living his dream life to his sweetheart, Chris, and they had been married 17 years. They had 8 kids, just really living a charmed life. Then one day, tragically, Chris died from a heart abnormality.
Yeah, it was horrible when I heard the story. My heart bled for him. I would just add, then he was forced into a role that was unfamiliar to him. His wife did an amazing job raising those 8 children, and he now had to be a parent and a provider and trying to navigate that.
Let's get to know you a little bit better. I want to just ask you some fun, playful questions. Here's how it goes. I'm going to ask you some questions that will help folks understand your essence, of who you are, kind of your trademark. And we'll do it this way. I'll ask you this question and you'll fill in the blank. So I'll say, when I think of Dawne, the first thing I think of is blank. And I'm going to give you some characters that you would put into that scenario. Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So first, we're going to go with your youngest child. When I think of Dawne, or when I think of mom, the first thing I think of is blank.
Well, she has been by my side through a lot of what I went through. And the one thing she has repeatedly said to me was, Mom, so many people love you and you inspire so many. Just keep going. She would also probably repeat back to me what I've said to my daughters forever. Never give up. God has a plan and everything will always work out. So
I love that. I love that. Okay, let's change the script a little bit. And so we're going to talk about your longest standing friendship, your best friend. Maybe it's that person that you've known for 25 years that we touched on earlier. What's her name?
this would be Chrissy, and I've actually known her
Okay.
for 40 years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so Chrissy would say, when I think of Dawne, the first thing I think of is blank.
She has said to me repeatedly, you are the strongest woman I know. And, many times when she said that to me, I was in what I call the depths of hell, feeling completely broken, sad, scared, desperately wanting someone to help me or take care of me. So I didn't feel strong at all. But interestingly enough, I guess that's what I projected to the world, that I was strong.
Chrissy could see that
Yeah.
strength, huh? That's encouraging, though. I love that. Okay, last but not least, your fiance, Mr. Larry, when I think of Dawne, the first thing I think of is blank.
Oh, well, I think his first words would be that she's a spaz. And we joke about that all the time. He'll turn around and say, "You're such a spaz." And he means it with love because I get spazzy. And then
Yeah.
he calls me out on it, and we laugh together about it. But he'll take me from
That's-
something I'm spazzing over per se, that has me in tears. He'll take me to laughing in seconds.
Dawne, let's go a little deeper into your story. In the introduction, I mentioned that you had a very unique and very powerful story that involves a non-typical childhood. I know that you left home when you were 17 years old, and I wondered if you would take us through your story of growing up and some of those early struggles and the adversity that you had to overcome.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I was born to a mother who didn't want me and told me every single day. I was very unloved, unwanted. It was evident. And it's like the Cinderella story, kind of. When you think about that story, Cinderella was the good person, always doing good. But the one that her wicked stepmother would, always push to do things and beat up, basically, mentally, emotionally, or whatever. So that was my life. That was my story. I did have a younger sister, or I do, 5 years younger, who was loved, was chosen, and I was told that often. So after 17 years, there was an incident that happened that made me leave home.
Okay. I'm curious, Dawne, today, is your mom still living, and your sister, are you still in touch with them?
As far as I know, they are still living. Part of my healing process required me to walk away from both of my parents. My father was not any better. So it's been about 15 years that I have spoken to or seen my parents. And my sister, unfortunately, was part of that. So my mother really roped her in and pitted her and I against each other from a very young age, which was dysfunctional on my mother's part. My sister was really an innocent victim to that, but she's not strong enough to, or maybe she wasn't made like I was made, right? I think she was made like my mother. So there's no connection there anymore, unfortunately.
Oh, gosh. That's hard. That was a hard choice, but a necessary one, I'm sure.
Yes.
Dawne, how did you overcome those wounds, or how did you avoid viewing yourself as the victim?
Well, it took me 46 years and being brought to my knees, or crashing, as I say, to really become awake to it all. I was living in survival mode and unconscious for 46 years. And when I say unconscious, that doesn't mean like every decision I made or to my children or to my work. It just meant that I was blocking my pain from my childhood and adulthood, basically, by staying busy and just being a good mom and working hard in corporate America. So I was
checking boxes.
Yeah, I basically was unconscious to the wounds because I didn't want to make space for them. It was too painful.
So you numb that pain by doing and being productive. Yeah, that's a common thing. The more people that you talk to,
yeah, we all have something that we use as a coping mechanism, and for me, it was being the best mom I could be and working hard.
Yeah, it sounds like that was a process, wasn't it?
Absolutely, it definitely was a process, and it was a long healing process, but I had to give myself that gift and grace to go through the pain, not around it anymore, as we often do, and take as long as I needed to heal. And during that process, I actually became a life coach in 2016 because that was part of my healing process that I really enjoyed. I was working with a life coach, and she was amazing and got me over to the other side. Therapy was good. It served a purpose, but it kept me stuck. The life coaching really helped get me to that next step. So I've been dedicating my life ever since to helping others go through their pain, trauma, and all that they need to overcome.
Yeah. So you learned new knowledge, new ideas, new practices, new techniques, and it was so powerful for you that you were like, I've got to teach this to other people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just knew. So this was really before I even knew like what I was going to do with my life, right? So but I felt a calling that I had to go through this pain, in order for me to help others. And then once I did, I realized that and put those pieces together, I knew. So I became certified, and it felt right. It just felt like this is what God wanted me to do. So.
Yeah. And I'm sure as you teach others, it solidifies, reinforces, and fortifies all the progress you make.
It does. It really does.
Dawne, you mentioned God's plan. If you feel comfortable, I wonder if you wanted to share with us what role your faith played in this transformation, this journey that you just talked about.
Absolutely. God played a major part in my life then and still does. I will forever feel blessed and grateful that God chose me to go through that horrible life and experience and journey that I lived. I say that he had to break me, but he had to make me strong enough to withstand and endure. And I do believe that he arms us with what we need. We just need to trust in him and trust the journey fully. But he definitely blessed me with the greatest gifts in life. He made me different. I wasn't like what I was born from. I have 2 beautiful daughters. I have a loving heart. I don't have any anger or hate in it. And, he gave me the ability to transform my pain into my purpose so I can help others now. And then, of course, I have a bonus, beautiful man in my life and his 8 children. So I am truly blessed.
Yeah, wow. Dawne, folks will have heard you say, I'm grateful for the pain and the suffering that God led me through. And people will hear that and go, that's crazy talk. How could someone be grateful for all that? Could you spend a minute there? Like, when you say that, give us the context and the underlying feeling of how you can say that today.
Yeah, and that's a good point. How can I say it today? Because if you asked me when I was in it, I would say exactly what you just said. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Like, no, I'm not grateful for this. I remember crying out to God daily. Why are you doing this to me? Why? Well, I've been a good person. Like, I'm made of love. I'm good. Why is this happening?
I don't deserve this.
Yeah, I don't deserve this. All I've ever done was try to love people that abuse me, that whole thing. But had he not broken me, Skip, I would have continued to repeat generational patterns. And that is like a whole podcast in itself.
Oh, yeah.
We live unconsciously to the programming and the blueprint that is given to us as a child. And when we live unconsciously, we are just simply going through the motions and repeating patterns that are familiar and comfortable. And that's why we gravitate to the same people or the same thing, because it's normal to us. But when you've gone through a bad situation like I had, and you feel like there's something deeper inside you meant for greater purpose, but you can't put your finger on it, but yet you just keep doing what you're doing and living your life, and then bad things keep happening. If I had not been brought to my knees, I would still be repeating those patterns and not knowing why.
Yeah, that clears it up and justifies it for me. I get it. Yeah, thank you. Dawne, if you would, I want to go back to your story and just ask if you would be willing to share a little bit more about growing up, your family life, some of your struggles, and then I want to talk about the day you left.
Sure.
We'll get to that. Could you give us a little more of a picture of how hard it was living with a mom who didn't want you, didn't love you?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was nothing I could ever do that was good. And I was always trying to please her. Even my 17-year-old self, there was still the little girl deep inside who was just like a 3-year-old wanting her mother's love. When you are rejected by your mother, there is a huge wound there that as the child in you, you always want to keep doing everything you can to get her love. As the adult, you start to think, okay, this person isn't very nice, but the child in you still wants to be loved. So I struggled with that my whole life until I left home. Nothing I did was good enough. The highs and lows. She was very, what I thought was bipolar, but I later learned that it made more sense that she was borderline personality. And I throw that label out there because that was something I had never heard before. But when I learned that in therapy, it made sense and it really connected the dots, because she always told me I was bad or I was, the troublemaker. But in actuality, I really wasn't. I was actually really a good child. So when I heard the borderline, statement, I thought, okay, so I'm not crazy.
That vocabulary, that phrase gave you a framework to make sense of some things.
Yes, for sure. So it was a lot of up and down, hot or cold, walking on eggshells, not knowing who I was going to get when I walked through the door. So I quickly learned how to be a people pleaser.
Dawne, you've shared with me before, as we're getting to know each other, a horrible incident where she pushed you down a flight of steps. How could that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't know how that could happen. Having two daughters of my own who are my world and always have been, I can't, I never even laid a hand on them when they were little. You know, it just, for me, it was always about getting down to their little level and speaking to them in their eyes. And that's it. When my mother, as I said, she was always high and low. The incident that took place was we were in the kitchen eating breakfast, and it was just her and I, and she had said, would you like to go shopping? Which again was this high, right? Oh, she's being nice to me.
Yeah.
And I actually looked around the room and I was like, is she talking to my sister? Like, you know, because I'm like, clearly she doesn't want to go shopping with me. She hates me. So I said, me? And she was like, yeah, you. And so, of course, the little girl in me, so even though I'm 17 and I hate her and she's been horrible to me, the 3-year-old in me was like, yes, I'll do anything. I want to go shopping.
Of course.
So I excitedly said, yeah, okay. So I ran upstairs to get ready. And it wasn't 5-10 minutes later that I heard her storming up the stairs, raging. And I couldn't hear what she was saying because I had my music on. But when she got up to my bedroom, she was raging about me not cleaning the crumbs off the counter, which, by the way, I didn't create because I didn't make any crumbs. And so she grabbed me by my hair and dragged me to the steps and threw me down a flight of stairs to go clean up the crumbs. And then all I remember, like still to this day,
were you injured?
Is that stucco wall that we all had, the popcorn wall, you know? So I bounced down a flight of stairs hitting that. So yeah, and then I landed.
That probably scraped you up on the way down.
Oh yeah, I was bleeding. I was in shock. That was a new extreme. So she was always emotionally and mentally abusive, always. But and
that day it got
the
physical.
Physical was new for me, and I was in shock. And then my father met me at the landing, and of course, even though he was no better my whole life, I was looking at him to save me, like protect me here. And he literally said to me, what did you do to your mother to piss her off? And I knew in that moment, I was not safe. Like, I need to get out of here. These guys want to kill me. Like, I'm never, ever. It's escalating at this point. And I'm 17 years old, by the way. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
So
probably a senior in high school.
I was ending my junior year. So when I left home, I left that day literally with the clothes on my back.
That's the day you left. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I left, I obviously didn't have a plan. I was just running to escape it. And
oh gosh. So did you pack a bag or a backpack or? Oh my gosh.
I ran
Dawne.
out of my house and said, you guys are crazy. And then I went to my girlfriend's house, and her mom and sister and her said, you know, you're going to stay here. We're going to take care of you. I wore my girlfriend's clothes. And then I was starting my senior year of high school. So I then had to, you know, I said, I'm not going back. And so we made a plan.
Did your parents try to come and get you, like force you to come back home or what? No. Really? Wow. That tells a lot.
Well, they didn't know where I was, but trust me, as a mother, if I didn't know where my child was, I would be the best FBI agent you have. Like, I would find my child. So they didn't try, obviously.
Yeah, that's exactly the thought I had in mind. I was like, FBI, all points bulletin. Yeah. I know that's not easy to share publicly, Dawne. Thank you for being authentic and vulnerable and honest enough to share that, because I know someone out there listening is hurting or knows someone who's hurting, and hearing that could be just the motivation they need to help change or help someone through a transition.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why I tell my story.
Yeah. Dawne, having heard your story, and if a listener out there has similar trauma or similar feelings, what would you say to them?
I would say that what happened to you in your childhood does not define you. That you can rewrite your story anytime. You're never too old to start. I repeated abuse patterns into my adulthood because I didn't know. I didn't know any better. That's what I thought was love. Hence the title of my book. I thought it was love. When
Oh, yeah.
you're brought up in an abusive situation, despite being abused, like I said, you still crave that love. You're trying to find it and search for it. So
Sure.
then let's just say you become an adult, you go out into the real world. And when I was 17, 18, dating, I would accept any little breadcrumb of love as a big deal. Like I thought, oh my gosh, they really like me, or this is love, right? And so what happens
Of
is
course.
you're repeating patterns unknowingly. And then you're accepting this love.
I can see that. 192. 192 extra minutes of wisdom. That's what you get when you become a patron of the Main Thing podcast. Many of you continue to say, we want to hear more from these wise guests. That's precisely what patrons of our podcast get. Exclusive access to bonus episodes called The Whole Thing. These 30-minute special shows bring you a deeper dive into our guests' wisdom. Less editing, more laughter. Less time limits, more stories. Unlock those 192 extra minutes of wisdom for yourself for as little as $9 per month through the Patreon platform. And when you become a patron, you also get access to wisdom essays, behind-the-scenes glimpses, and access to special patron-only wisdom gatherings. Head over to patreon.com/themainthingpodcast. Go unlock your 192 extra minutes of wisdom. Dawne Jacoby, what's the main thing you've learned in your lifetime so far?
Skip, the main thing I've learned in my lifetime so far is if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Oh my gosh. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yes.
Would you unpack that for us and tell us more about that? And we know sort of context that some of the things that you could look at. Take us through that.
Sure. So this is a quote by Dyer that stuck with me when I was going through my healing process. And it basically means that we all have something in life that happens to us that makes an impact. And we have a choice to let it break us or build us. And we could very easily get stuck in that victim mode. Or we could reframe the situation and ask ourselves, is this experience trying to teach me something? Or does God have his hand in this? Is he making me go through this so I can help others for a greater purpose? In my situation, God definitely had his hand in it. I mean, I believe it
sure
took me
did.
so long to crash. I laugh and joke about this and say because I'm a slow learner. Or, I am too loyal and I stay too long. And it takes something extreme like my mother throwing me down the stairs to say enough. And that happened in my adult relationship too, where I said, enough, I'm done. But most importantly, I needed to go through, I think, every bit of it so that I could now help all walks of life. I feel like I have like this superpower now where, sometimes in just a few seconds of someone talking to me, I can feel and intuitively know what they might be struggling with. And I know how to help them. So it's almost like God whispers to me, what's going on in my heart. And I say that that's a gift that he's given me now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The superpower of empathy and feeling and relating.
Yeah. And I mean, when you're in victim mode, like in my situation, when I think about my life, I could say I was either put here by God to live the worst life ever and to be tortured by so many people, or reframe it and say, God chose me to help others and would protect me and provide for me, along the way. So I chose to believe the latter.
And he would use your story to help others learn and make
Exactly.
change. Yeah. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So you could change the way you looked at your childhood from looking at it as being a victim and being unwanted and hurt to a new way. And that's what you've done, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Gosh, that feels like freedom.
Definitely freedom. That's a great word for that.
Dawne, would you happen to have a personal example of when you've recently had to lean on and apply this main thing wisdom phrase that you've just introduced to us?
Yeah, I mean, this happens often in my coaching sessions, and those coaching sessions are with top executives all the way down to children. And then many times when I'm trying to help my own children through life situations, or even Larry's children, that this comes up. Many adults, but especially children, because they don't have the wisdom yet, they tend to think doomsday, like, oh, this this situation is horrible. I'm making this, it's not a made up story, but as an example, one of Larry's children, Zach, his car, he had gone on a little road trip and he got his car checked out, paid, say, $500 for whatever he had to have done or whatever. And then he went on the road trip and the car broke down like halfway through the trip. And then the car, needed repaired, and it was basically totaled. Like there was no fixing it. So now he had to put out, an exorbitant amount of money to buy a new car. And he's like, I literally just moved out. Like my finances were in order. Why is this happening to me? But you think about it, and I was like, but you don't know. Like maybe God broke your car down for a reason because, I don't know, you were going to get into an accident or it was going to blow up on you or something. Like we don't know the answers to everything in that moment, but it's reframing your thought from doomsday to maybe there's a reason for this.
Yeah. For him to say, I'm the victim. I just spent money. I spent good money on that car. It should have been fixed. This shouldn't have happened to me. And I see you coming in and saying, but gosh, Zach, think of it this way. You're getting a new car.
Like there's a positives there.
Yeah, it's going to cost a little more, but you're going to have a brand new car. You're going to have a new vehicle that you're going to love. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's a great example. Dawne, I want to go back to your transformation just a little bit. And I want to go a little deeper into some of the work that you did to help make that change. You talked about working with a coach. So you did that. You talked about therapy, but would you just kind of give us a glimpse of how you invested in your personal change and some of the practices or some of the studies that you might have done?
Yeah, for sure. So I should definitely add in my pastor. The church I was going to at the time was a Lutheran church. I was often meeting with my pastor, just asking her, why is God doing this to me? So she helped me tremendously. As you mentioned, I had therapy 2 or 3 days a week. I added life coaching in 1 to 2 times a week. I started journaling. Journaling is huge. I tell all of my clients to journal because if anything, it's just getting the thoughts out of your head so you can go to sleep and have peace, but also looking at patterns or your thought process for the day. And then, how do you feel this morning? How do you feel tonight? What happened during the day? What could we do different? It's a good way of changing.
I'm a huge fan of journaling. Listeners were chuckling right now. There goes Skip journaling again. He probably paid her to say.
Yeah, I believe in it. I also was given, this might seem silly, but it really was powerful for me. My girlfriend gave me this little box and it said, honestly, I forget the exact wording, but it was basically when you need somewhere to put your thoughts, put it in God's hands. That was what was on top of the box. And it basically was like, write your pain down and put it in this little box and give your worries to God for the night and let him work on it. And so when I would go to bed, I was like, God, my heart, I think I repeatedly wrote, please, I just want peace in my heart, my mind, and my soul. Like that's all I wanted. I just wanted peace. And, I didn't have the quick answer on how to get there. So I gave that to God every night.
Yeah, powerful. If I recall, you're pretty consistent with exercise and that sort of thing. Did you do anything differently in your physical activity during your healing?
Yes. And that was huge. That was a huge part of my healing. So thanks for bringing that up. Yes, so I am an avid gym goer, but I stepped it up a notch. During the worst time of my life, for some crazy reason, I decided to do a Spartan race. Was not trained or ready for that, but just dove in. And then I did a muck
Oh my
fest.
gosh.
So, but yeah, boxing became my number one passion, which I still love today. I highly recommend it,
And you're an
especially, if you're married or you're a couple. It's so much fun. Like I obviously wasn't at the time, but think about it, Skip, at the end of every day, you and your wife getting together, getting some gloves on and sparring in a loving way. Larry won't box
Oh
with
my
me though.
gosh.
He says, I can't do
Okay.
it.
That's awesome. Dawn, if someone listening has not yet embraced your main thing, wisdom, which was about changing the way you look at things so that those things change. If someone hasn't latched onto that yet or hasn't discovered that, what might they be feeling in the way of symptoms or pain points?
Yeah, they are likely feeling stuck and know deep down that they are made for more, but just don't know how to get there or even where to start. They probably need clarity, might need to unblock some limiting
Mm,
beliefs that have kept them stuck. And they might need to heal some childhood wounds. We all have them. So this is typically what I see in adult clients that I'm coaching. They're carrying forward,
yeah.
these childhood wounds, and it's never too late to heal them. And like you said, to
Mm.
free yourself, you become free.
Here we are in early 2024. You're engaged. You've got all kinds of good things going through your Grit to Grace platform. What's bringing you the most joy in this season of your life?
I am definitely living my best life and I'm living my purpose with the man I love. And bonus, I have 10 children total to love in the process. There is definitely no greater joy.
His 8 and your 2, right? 8
Yes,
plus 2
Larry's
equals
8,
10.
my 2, and 2 soon to be husbands. My one youngest daughter is engaged, and my oldest will likely be engaged
Oh,
this coming
wonderful.
year. So I get another 2 bonus. Yeah, God has definitely blessed me tremendously. And so I would say that to the listeners,
Mm-hmm.
when I was, 46 years old and crashing and down on my knees and feeling like, what am I here for? I can't keep doing this life anymore like this. I didn't know
Yeah.
if it was ever going to change, but I am testimony. Don't give up. Just keep going. Don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
It will change. All it is probably requiring you to do is to make drastic changes in your life and let God lead you through it.
There it is right there. Yeah. Dawn, what's next for you? You're navigating your life, living your best life, as you said. I know you've got a lot of plans and dreams and things going on that you're moving towards. What's something new that you're aiming for or you're trying to master? Just something that might surprise the listener.
Yeah, well, let's see. On a personal level, Larry and I are planning to get married this year. If all works out, we have to sell a house, buy a house, plan a wedding, and that's a lot in one
A
year, plus running a business.
lot of
Yeah.
logistics.
But we would love for our business to thrive. As you mentioned, our
Mm-hmm.
business is called Grit to Grace, and there's
Mm-hmm.
many different segments to our business, and one of which is podcasting and speaking and
Yeah.
coaching. And so, yeah, we really want to make it successful, make God proud, and spread the word on how He worked in us and He can work in others too.
Yeah. Master that new platform and that new business. Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. I'll put links to your podcast and your website in the show notes so that folks can go there and check it out and learn
That would
more.
be awesome. Your questions have been so thought provoking and so kind. And I've teared up multiple times thinking of my answers or answering them. And I just appreciate the opportunity to dig deep into myself and offering me a platform to share with the hopes of helping others. This has been
Mm-hmm.
great. I highly recommend the Main Thing podcast. It's just been a joy to be here. So thank you.
Well, it's been an honor and a blessing to connect with you, learn from you, and to help support each other and encourage one another. We're both trying to help people in our own way, and I'm all about that. So thank you. And Dawne, it's been fabulous. Take good care, and so long for now.
You too, Skip. Thank you.
Wow, that goes by incredibly fast, doesn't it? Time flies when you're hacking wisdom. I hope you're left wanting more. Sync up with us again next time on The Main Thing for 9 more minutes of wisdom.